This is hands down one of the biggest misconceptions in autism. Um, I taught for 5 years, profound autism, and never once was apraxia talked about.
It's like this is so far beyond anything we could have prayed for or thought was possible. So I mean, God's just constantly saying like, don't put me in a box, because even more recently, someone reminded me like, yeah, he's got his voice on a letterboard, but you shouldn't stop praying for him to also speak, because God can do that too.
Hmm.
And he said, when I almost died from mono, Jesus was with me and carried me through and told me that my purpose, was to overcome this, to share, his story and his love.
All right, they said he couldn't understand. They said he couldn't communicate. But what if the real problem was never Chase's voice? What if the problem was the world refusing to listen? Today's conversation will challenge everything you thought you knew about autism, intelligence, faith, and what it truly means to presume competence. Maggie, thank you so much for being on the UNspecial podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Let's start with you. What's your scoop? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have a speller. His name's Chase. He is almost 16. So we have been spelling for almost 5 years, probably not like consistently for more than about two, almost two. But we got introduced to it about 5 years ago. And then once I kind of realized like the importance of practicing, we've been consistently doing it for almost 2 years. He's now openly communicating and typing, and he finally has a voice after over 15 years being locked in silence.
Man. All right. What is that like when he's finally unlocked?
I mean, it's been truly like witnessing a miracle unfold before our eyes. And I say that um, just because, we never gave up hope that there would be um, some way for him to communicate, but we obviously never knew what that was going to look like. And even once we were spelling, I was kind of like, this is awesome. He's going to be able to tell me what he wants to eat for dinner, where he wants to go. But like beyond that, the things he's talking about are just so mind blowing and so deep and so profound that every single day he spells, it's truly like witnessing a miracle.
Yeah.
I don't even really have another way to put it.
Uh, Gives me chills. Moment of truth. I counted the other day how many times my 4-year-old said "dad," and it was like it was 150, and I stopped counting. And I'm like, come on, just do you have to say so many times? But then I had a thought, and I was like, so many of you parents never hear that word, or like all the dads or the moms.
Yeah.
And I was like
That
put in my
Family
place.
Guy
I'm like,
episode.
yeah, oh,
Mom, mommy, mama.
yeah. And I was put in my place. I'm like, you know what? I will cherish every single thing you say.
I know. I do
All
have
right.
another son who's 14, and he makes up for all the words that Chase does not say out loud. So I get a taste of both.
That's funny. So he's 16 now, and he's been spelling for 5 years. How did you come across spellers?
I don't even really remember, to be honest. Probably on like a Facebook group or something like that. But at the time, there wasn't a provider in the Nashville area where we live. There had been one, and she had moved. She was an S2C provider, and she had moved to Atlanta. So she was traveling up here once a month, kind of seeing clients, new clients, and her existing clients. And we got on our calendar. We saw her one time, and then COVID happened. So we tried to do some virtual for like a year when she wasn't coming back up here. And then it didn't work. There's something about seeing a provider in person that just you can't really replicate over Zoom, especially in the early days of learning the method. So we tried, but it was really clumsy, and I just didn't really understand what I was doing, and all the things. So we circled back after COVID when she was back in town and kind of picked back up again. And at that point, there was another provider in training in Nashville under her. So she started working with Chase regularly, and that's kind of when the ball started rolling. Her name's Lindsay. And so she started working with Chase, and just like her caseload started getting bigger and bigger, and she started kind of putting the bug in my ear, like, I think you'd be really great at this. Like, Speller's Method's coming out with this training. Like, I think you should do it with me. And she just kept nudging me and nudging me. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Um, so yeah, I did the training with her. We both got, she was already trained in S2C, but we both did the Speller's Method training. And now we both work together. I'm in my office now, and we both see spellers in the area now.
That's amazing. And so you started 615 spelling.
Mm-hmm.
And then how long have you been doing that?
It's been exactly a year now.
Oh, wow. Pretty
Yeah.
new. Well, I
Yeah,
just saw your story. You have so many spellers on the wall. How
I
many
do. But
are,
those are between the two of us.
okay.
And yeah, some have kind of moved on. They're openly communicating with their families. A lot of them are new, and just starting out on the journey. So it's been really exciting to share this with everyone in the area. And we have people that travel in, kind of all over. I mean, I have a couple clients from Kentucky that drive in. I had one yesterday from like Southern Illinois, because there's just not a lot of providers nationwide. The closest one before us was Atlanta. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's growing.
Yeah. So will you break down the different stages of spelling? You've mentioned open communicating. Where does it start and like what's the end goal?
I mean, the end goal is different for, I guess, what it looks different for every speller, whether it's on a stencil, a laminate board, a keyboard, as long as the end goal is always to have 26 letters at your disposal, because that's infinite possibilities of words.
All
We
right.
start every speller. I should have brought the boards in here with me. I can go get some if you want to, edit it out, or I can go grab some. But
Sure, sure.
do you want me to go grab some? I can kind of show you.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see them.
Okay,
Yeah.
hang
All
on.
right.
Okay, sorry.
All
My
good.
chair is also really squeaky, so I'm trying not to move around too much.
Oh no, you're fine.
Okay, where you want me to start with, like,
Yeah, it's like let's start at the beginning. What is the first a new
okay.
client comes in, what are they looking at?
Okay, so the first thing, we go through the foundations of the method, the whole co-regulation piece, presuming competence. I talk to the speller, I talk to the family about like what it looks like. We use lessons to not teach. I mean, there's a teaching component to it, but we already assume and presume competence that they know how to spell these words. So the lessons are used as just a framework to give new context and just to have some words to spell and questions to answer. So when they come in, we'll kind of check on like a motor assessment and just kind of see if they can hold a pencil, what their pencil grip looks like, how strong their grasp and stuff like that is. And if they can, we start them on the 3 stencil. Everyone starts on 3 boards where they're broken down. The alphabet's broken down into the 3 boards. And this just helps break down the visual component of it, where there's less letters for them to have to look at.
Hmm.
If they don't have a great pencil grip or are just better at isolating a pointer finger, we'll use foam boards, so they can just poke the letters with their finger instead.
Okay.
We start everyone on 3 boards. There's a hierarchy of prompting that has to be faded back so that there's 0 influence. So, a lot of the beginning of it, we're just working on the motor piece of it. And so
Hmm.
it's not teaching spelling. We're teaching them to find a letter with their eyes, to get their body coordinated, to look and then reach out and touch the letter. So it's like learning a golf swing almost. Like you've got to get your eye on the ball and then you got to learn the swing. It's all gross motor from the shoulder. So you're taking out as much of the fine motor piece of it that speaking involves, and using the hinge from the shoulder as like the gross motor component to get their finger or their pencil to find the letter. So you're just
Yeah.
modeling new pathways by like seeing the letter, touching the letter, and then the provider says the letter back. So there's an auditory piece of it too.
And this is hands down one of the biggest misconceptions in autism. Um, I taught for 5 years profound autism, and never once was apraxia talked about.
Right.
And
Yeah,
it
I was
was
going to say that's a big
essentially
problem.
we were given textbook clinical whatever data to go off of, and then we would have all our methods, and it was never talked about like to presume competence. And thankfully, early on, I figured it out. Like my students were very intelligent, and I could see their thoughts just going. And I remember sitting there one day. I'm like, why? I know they know what's going on. I can see them trying to do it, but there's something. And then I just started doing a bunch of research, and I came across apraxia. I'm like, there it is. They just
Yeah.
can't tell their body what to do.
It's so frustrating. And I just
Yeah.
feel so bad for these, spellers, these non speakers and their praxic bodies because they know in their brain what they want to do and they just can't make their body cooperate to do it.
Hmm.
So that's kind of where this communication partner, the parent, comes in just to kind of help keep their body and their brain talking to each other and communicating and moving in the direction they want it to go.
Right. I remember I came across Ito in Autism Land, and I read it over a weekend, and I came back in on Monday, and I got all my staff together, and then all the SLP and behavior people. Like, I just read this book over the weekend. It blew my mind, and everybody's just staring at me like, I think you're crazy. Like, no, this is it.
It's
It's
so
gonna
misunderstood.
transform our class,
Yeah.
and thankfully, I mean, the staff kind of jumped on board. But yeah. All right. So you go from three letter boards. What goes next?
Right. So there's a hierarchy of prompting because in the beginning we're teaching the motor, we're just trying to help them learn to get their body to find the letters, poke the letters, and once that gets really good and fluent, and all we're doing is using what we call continuation prompts where we're just saying like keep looking, or like an initiation prompt like all right, find that first letter, keep looking, keep going, keep scanning. We're not telling them where to go, we're not using any gestures to help their eyes find the letters. Like we're simply just telling, like keeping our foot on the gas pedal to keep their those neural pathways firing. So we're just saying like keep going and then next letter is. So there's zero influential prompts happening. And when that happens, you can move to like a 26 stencil. And from there, or you could do like a 26 foam board where all the letters are on one like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at that point, you bring all the prompts back in because you're teaching a different motor plan with more letters. So they're kind of having to relearn like how to look at a larger um, field of letters, and it's a little more tedious. So you do the same thing again. You use all the prompts, you eventually fade them back. And as their motor planning gets better and they get more fluent and smooth, then you can move to like a laminate board or a keyboard. And it all just depends on the speller's motor profile and their regulation and how well they can keep their body moving to find the letters. Some spellers need the feedback from a stencil, like that sensory feedback of poking through, and some of them, you know, can poke softer on a laminate. So it's dependent on the speller.
Yeah, and it's a real like holistic approach, taking
Very,
into
and it's so
all the
nuanced.
which is that's what just drove me crazy about teaching is there was no holistic approach. It was
Yeah,
textbooks.
yeah.
And I'm like, well,
Well,
everyone's
these kids
different.
don't. They try to stick them in a box, and
Yeah,
even neurotypical kids don't fit in a box. So you're
no,
trying to put non-speakers in this box whose bodies are all doing something different, and apraxia is a spectrum as well. So some kids are more affected than others, and so that also has to be taken into consideration.
yeah. Take me back to the early days with Chase, and that's just the whole journey to get him to where he is now. When was he diagnosed with autism?
He was two, a little, 2.5 maybe. The
Okay.
typical, he's the typical story of regression.
Mm,
We didn't know anything about all of that. At the
yeah.
time, we were in a really small town in West Tennessee. We just followed the doctor's orders. We gave Tylenol before all the shots. I didn't know anything about my health history. Come to find out later, we both have MTHFR, all the things that play into reasons that cause autism. And we figured all that out probably when he was about 5. But when he got diagnosed at 2.5, we were in West Tennessee. We had come to Nashville to Vanderbilt. And the minute we walked out of the clinic, my husband and I were like, we're going to have to move. We're going to have to come to Nashville. And we moved to Nashville because we don't have access to services at the time. We were going off of Vanderbilt's recommendations of like 40 hours a week of ABA and SLP and OT and all that. And we didn't even have ABA therapists in Jackson. So that was the reason we actually moved to Nashville. And then once we got here and got plugged in, we met other families that were doing more holistic approaches to treating gut issues and autism. And that's kind of when we started going down that path of cleaning up our environment, our world, our diet, all the other protocols and things that
Hmm.
people do to help.
Right. The
So,
whole biomed journey.
yeah.
Did that stuff help?
It did. It helped a ton with regulation, with sleep, with gut issues. Diet was a huge piece of it. Homeopathy, I think, helped a ton. We had a practitioner that we met with for years. I also struggled. I figured out I had some autoimmune issues that I think also played into, him having genetically some of the, predispositions for autism and gut issues himself. So he and I have kind of been on a journey of healing ourselves together, health wise,
Wow.
energetically, spiritually, all the things. We've worked with a lot of really amazing providers in all the realms. It's interesting. I did an AMA with him last month during autism awareness and all that. And when someone asked him, what was aside from spelling, like what um, therapy or other intervention do you feel like was most beneficial? And I expected him to say like diet or whatever. Well, we went to Panama and we did stem cells.
Oh,
And it was a pretty traumatic, I mean, so we did it. It was a pretty traumatic experience. Like his body, it was scary. He almost died, which we didn't
oh my
really
gosh.
at the time. It was so much on his immune system. I think they went in and rebooted his immune system, and like he was kind of in a autoimmune state. So he was never getting sick. We knew he had all these underlying like Lyme and mold exposure and things like that. So we did the stem cells, and I think it just activated his immune system to where he like went into this huge flare. He was in the hospital off and on for like 2 months. It was really scary.
Yeah.
But he spelled that he thought stem cells were just a necessary part of his healing journey. And specifically, the faith piece of it, he was like, God knew that I needed to go through that for you to really rely on him, to trust that I would make it through the journey. And so this was literally like last week that he spelled this. And I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
oh boy. I'm like, I think I had like pushed all that down because it was just such a traumatic, scary time. And I didn't think I couldn't let myself go there in the moment of like, he could die or like he's that close to death, but like he literally was. And by the grace of God and by a lot of miracles, he pulled through it. I just didn't realize how aware he was of that.
Mm, man, I got the chills.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
it
And
was.
I've heard this many times with moms in their journey that they kind of go on a healing journey alongside their kid themselves once they start
Mhm.
diving into all this stuff. Um, yeah, so how has faith carried you through, and how has it changed through all 16 years?
So I grew up in the Bible Belt. We were always in church on Sundays, doing youth. And so, I've always been a believer. And then in high school, you know, we were on like a youth retreat, and that was kind of when I remember being like, I want to ask God to come in my heart and have a personal relationship. But, you know, you're a teenager, and, you know, so things fluctuate. I was a typical teenager. I did plenty of dumb things, went to
Yep.
college. Like, I wouldn't say my faith was great in college. I didn't go to church regularly. But I mean, I've always been a believer. And then when Chase was born, obviously having children is like a huge, I mean, for me to witness childbirth, like really brought me another level of awareness of like what God's capable of doing. And I guess throughout the journey, it's been like a slow burn of really having to rely on prayer and faith and trust in God to get us through each hurdle. Because I mean, it's not easy. We've been through a lot of really hard times. We've had to really get down on our knees and pray for like, God, show us your will through this. Like, what are we supposed to be learning? Because I know none of this is in vain. And I know you would not let your children suffer without some cause or purpose or plan, or, you know, like our prayer constantly is like, God, show me your will, show me your will. Like,
Mhm.
what is meant to come from this? Because I feel like that's the only thing that's gotten us through the hard times. But even now, you know, we're here and we've gotten through some hard times. And so even these like really exciting, beautiful moments of things he's spelling, I'm like, what is your will with this? Like, this is so far beyond anything we could have prayed for or thought was possible. So, I mean, God's just constantly saying like, don't put me in a box, because even more recently, someone reminded me like, yeah, he's got his voice on a letterboard, but you shouldn't stop praying for him to also speak, because God can do that too.
Hmm. That's wild. And there's so much there I want to get into. Did you? I mean, this is
That's so high
specifically.
level. Like, there's so many little tiny instances of like God's provision and just getting us through hard things. But, you know, overall, I think just our constant prayer of like, show us your will, because like trying to focus on that instead of like the hard pieces, I think is kind of what got us through.
Hmm. Yeah, that's. I mean, that's hitting home for me. And a lot of the listeners know my wife's fighting cancer,
Mhm.
and so I've been wrestling with this a lot lately too. And my prayer recently hasn't been for healing, which I still pray for healing, but the big emphasis is thy will be done.
Yeah.
And so, interesting question. Do you like, would you say that God's will is healing, or is the emphasis, because throughout scripture I see, you know, multiple people came to Jesus and he healed them.
Hmm.
And then there's the story of the pool of Bethesda,
Hmm.
and there's multiple sick people, disabled people, and he healed one person.
Hmm.
And so recently I've been more along the lines of it's not necessarily about the healing, but it was Jesus drawing people to himself.
Hmm.
And so you talk about the hard times and how he's carried you through in the faith, and I have multiple stories like that too. Um, and I think the bigger picture is he's just making himself known and drawing us to him. And
Hmm.
if he heals here, if he doesn't heal here, I feel like that's not the focus. Like that's not the big
Yeah.
picture.
I think that was a piece for us too of like, I don't want to say acceptance of our circumstance. I mean, I guess it is a level of acceptance of like, okay, this is the path and the journey we're meant to walk, however that's going to look, whatever the outcome is. Um, and so obviously we're always praying for healing and for,
Mm-hmm.
you know, restoration, but also like, how can, and I know this sounds really cheesy, but lately, just like from the things Chase is spelling to me, it's like that old saying, what would Jesus do? So it's like, I just keep going back to like, how would Jesus respond in this situation? Or what does love look like? You know, because he keeps saying like Jesus is love, and that's kind of a vague description, you know. So I'm always kind of trying to figure out like, how would Jesus respond? What does love look like in this situation? How would, I guess, like, what would Jesus do in this scenario, in every scenario, and let that be kind of how we guide our days and our responses and our reactions and um, our interactions with people. Um, I don't know.
Hmm.
That's kind of where it shifted for me more recently with some of the things that Chase is sharing with us, just because I'm like, he has such a deep rooted faith that that's all he thinks about all day is like, I mean, he's constantly pointing me back to Jesus, back to praying, and back to relying on God over myself and over other people. And so it's been really humbling because that's a level of faith that, and like, I just never had. And it's growing every day because Chase, is constantly reminding me that, like, you can't do this alone.
Oh, wow. Oh, all coming from a 16-year-old. This is
Yes, it's
powerful.
insane. I mean, it's not insane. It's beautiful.
Okay. Do you, oh man, do you, so what do you think about like life's circumstances and why things happen in life and how you got to this point and all that stuff? Um, would it be far-fetched to say that maybe God is taking you on this journey through Chase and his story to get you back
100%.
and other people and whoever else he impacts?
Chase has said multiple times recently. So we are part of a Bible study with a bunch of spellers, non-speakers, and we're in a group on Facebook. And the last like group study we did, uh, kind of one of the writing prompts was to share your testimony. And
Hmm.
this is so before that, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he has said that Jesus came to him as a newborn. Um, and because I guess the question might have been like, when's the first time you met Jesus or felt Jesus or something? And it was, he came to me as a newborn. So expanding on that, there was a prompt about like, write your testimony or your, I can't remember what exactly how it was worded, but we went through a list of prompts. And basically, he said the same thing again. Jesus came to me as a newborn and told me that my purpose in this life was to learn to spell, to be able to share the gospel with
Oh my
others.
gosh.
And he
Woo!
said that multiple times about Jesus coming to him as a newborn. And I think Jesus has been there holding his hand throughout this whole journey. And even back, talking about him being so sick with mono. So that was the thing when we had stem cells on we were spelling a separate time. When he had the stem cells, and the question was like, name a time that we were studying Paul, and it was like, name a time that you were really struggling and going through a dark season that you really had to rely on God. And he said, when I almost died from mono, Jesus was with me and carried me through and told me that my purpose, was to overcome this, to share, his story and his love. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
Man, I want to meet Chase.
I know.
Oh
Yeah, I don't know
man.
what to say.
Do you think Chase or non-speaker spellers have, or anyone with autism really, a deeper like intuition into the spiritual world?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's
I
so
I
much.
I wrote about it in my book, but I was teaching summer school, and we were at a church for a food bank that we set up and gave out food for everyone. And I went into the sanctuary with one of my students, and I've shared this story before, but I went into the sanctuary with one of my students, and I was with one of my support staff, and I said, "Hey," just randomly, I don't know why I was thinking about it. I was like, "Hey, where does uh, the support, I don't remember what her name was. Where does she sit on a Sunday morning?" And there's 500 seats in the sanctuary. And she went to the exact chair she sat in. I'm like, well, that's interesting. And then we went and sat down. It was right in the front row. And I look over at my student, and she's just like gazing at the stage.
Mhm.
And I'm like, hey, what are you looking at? What do you see right now? And she's like, there's angels. They're everywhere. It's so
Mhm.
peaceful. And at that moment, I was like, both me and the support staff, we were like, what is happening? And from then, I was like, man, geez, not only do we know that there's so much going on and they're here and they're intelligent and all that, but the deeper understanding of the spiritual world
Mhm.
is
They have
wild.
access that we just aren't privy to. And I think that's God's way of his provision for them to help them, through the struggles and being locked inside all these years. You know, I mean, what you
Yeah.
just described before Chase could openly spell, like we would be in church and it was exactly what you just looked at, and he would just, I'm like, he is seeing something otherworldly that we aren't privy to,
Yeah.
that we can't see. And he just flat, I'm like, dude, you're going to fly away. He gets so excited in church and he's just, but even when we're at home, I get those looks too. And I'm like, we'll be spelling and I'm like, what are you looking at? And now he can tell me, he's seeing angels and he sees demons too. It's scary. That's been the piece of it that we, have really, it's been a lot to process the way they experience spiritual warfare.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Have you read Decoding Cody?
No, never heard of
Okay,
it.
well, it's a must read. This is
Okay.
Chase's birthday wish. He's like, I want the world to read Decoding Cody.
Decoding code.
It just it's written by a pastor who has a close relationship with a few different spellers and just kind of goes through their experience with the spiritual realm. And I tell everyone that I recommend it, I'm like, you could just insert Chase's name and probably a lot of spellers. I know there's been a lot that we're connected with that are experiencing the same things. And I think that's just a piece, I think um, we're all susceptible to spiritual warfare. It's just, are we aware of it happening? And is that what we think of when things happen? I never did. I mean, I knew it was like a thing, but to experience it through him and for him to be able to communicate what he's seeing and feeling um, it's a lot to process.
Yeah, that's wild. It makes me think of I'm gonna try and find the verse in Exodus when Moses is talking with God and God's telling him he's gonna go lead the Israelites out of Egypt. And Moses comes out with a bunch of excuses and he's like, you know, I can't do it. I stutter. And then God shows him a bunch of signs and he's like, I'll be with you. I'll be with you. I'll be with you. And, and then God says, I'll paraphrase. He says, who makes the blind blind, the mute or the deaf deaf, and so forth. And you, you read that and then it makes you think like, okay, God made them this way. He permitted it to happen. And then in the world's terms, it would be confused as like, well, they're disabled, so God made a mistake in making them this way. But we know that's he didn't. He doesn't make mistakes. Like
Yeah.
there's a purpose behind everything. Thank you again so much for being here. We love these conversations and we hope you do as well. If you are enjoying what you're hearing, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. We don't make any money off of this. We do this simply for you, the parent, and our goal is for many parents to hear these conversations as you have. So if it's landed with you, if the UNspecial platform is landing with you, make sure to find us on Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and share it with your friends. Like, subscribe. That helps get the reach out there. Thank you again for being here. Yeah, the interaction with Moses and God.
Yeah. Well, and the thing I love about the Decoding Cody book is he brings in tons of biblical references to kind of back up some of these things that the spellers are talking about as far as angels and demons and just the spiritual warfare piece of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotta find that. Yeah, yeah. So it's God tells Moses that He, the Lord, is the one who makes the blind, the deaf, the mute, and so I mean, essentially, God's asserting that He has sovereignty over everything,
Yes. Hmm.
and nothing is by accident.
Yeah.
Oh
God doesn't
wow,
make accidents.
no.
Well, and you know
Um,
what's really interesting is children with Down syndrome are also accessing letterboards and spelling, and it's I know for the longest time it's the same with autism. Like people with Down syndrome have been considered intellectually disabled, and that's not the case at all. They're just
mhm.
dealing. I mean, yes, they have a chromosomal abnormality, but they also have apraxia, and so spelling works for them as well. And there's a couple spellers that I follow online that are saying amazing, profound things like this too. Um, and they're able to communicate through letterboards way more robustly than the limited speech that they have.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's that's incredible. If Chase could speak directly to the world right now, what I mean, he is. What does he want? What does he want everyone to know?
I think he's very passionate about spreading the gospel, obviously. He also really wants everyone to understand that autism is not autism, it's apraxia, and that the brain body disconnect is truly the problem, and that it's not intellectual at all. In fact, this morning before we came on here, I was like, he saw your list of questions, and I was like, is there anything you want to share? And, or like, what is your goal, your plan for the future, things like that. And he spelled out, um, I really want to present to Congress to help them understand that autism is actually apraxia and help them understand. And he has said that multiple times, like, I really want to present to Congress. And I'm like, okay.
Hey man, dream
I'm like, let's
big.
start the podcast.
Would he come on a podcast? How could we
Oh,
do that?
100%. He would love to.
Oh, we gotta do that. Let's do it. We'll
Let's
figure
do
it
it.
out.
Yeah.
What are his dreams for the future other than speaking to Congress?
That's the one he said.
That's it.
Um, yeah, I mean, it evolves every day. I feel like I have a running list of goals on my phone because every day he's like, I want to do this. Independence is huge. He wants to be independent. He constantly is like, stop helping me do this, or let me make my own dinner, or let me cut my own steak, which
Wow.
for an apraxic body, it's a lot. Like it's hard. And I'm like having to recoach him through, it's just as a parent, you just start learning that it's easier to just do it. And so
Right.
he's like, whoa, mom, back up, let me try and help me. Like motor coach me through these things so that I can be independent and learn to do it myself. And I forget there's days where I'm in a hurry and I'm just not thinking about it. And the other day he's like, you either opt to ignore me or you truly forget. And I was
Oh
like,
gosh.
excuse me. I'm trying the best I can over here.
Put you in your place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Or either
man.
opt to ignore me. And I'm like, I'm not ignoring you. I just forget. Like, bear with me
It
here.
is he homeschooled? Is he in school?
He goes to a school for neurodivergent learners. It's a movement-based school. It's under a homeschool umbrella, but he goes
Okay.
4 days a week, and then on Fridays they do like an open gym with CrossFit. But they have someone with
Nice.
adaptive CrossFit that comes in every day.
Cool.
And the exercise piece of it, a gross motor stuff, is like huge.
Yeah.
So that has been a huge, it's new as of this year. So that's been a huge blessing to have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah, there's a gym. I also live in North Idaho, but there's a gym up there that is all adaptive, and they have
Yeah.
like a playground on steroids. It's like the
That's
coolest
awesome.
place ever.
I
And
love it.
yeah, the high school goes in there and they do a bunch of adaptive training. Did you for a lot of the listeners definitely deal with grief and
Yeah.
go through all the cycles of grief?
Yeah.
How did that look for you, and what got you through?
Those early days are hard. I
Yeah.
mean, just when you're in the midst of all the behaviors and just there's like that level of lost, like, hopes and dreams, and um, the future is uncertain, and you just don't know what anything looks like. Yeah, I mean, that's hard. It's hard. And
Hmm.
it still comes and goes. I think the older they get, people, you start looking at like the independence piece of it, and are they going to be living with us forever? And it's easy to box them in like they always have been and just assume that they will be. And I think Chase is also opening my eyes and my heart to say, like, stop putting limitations. Because I do think there's a piece of, like, obviously the faith of, like, um, knowing that God's in control. So, like, we've always, like I said, tried to rely on that. But there's, like, your human brain is constantly like, what if? And I need to plan and I need to control and, have all these pieces lined up for when he is living with us at 25 or whatever. Um, but I think there's a whole, like, the energy piece of it of, like, putting out positivity and love and faith and, like, um, what you believe kind of does come to fruition. So, like, if you're gonna keep holding on to the negative thoughts, and or not negative, but just like staying in this stuck place of limited beliefs, then that's where you're gonna be. And so I think just
Hmm.
keeping an open mind that anything's possible, and just doing whatever you can to help your child get there, um, also plays a huge piece.
Yeah, there's what's that saying where your energy flows, your mind goes.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
I
that's
think that's
huge.
a huge piece of our healing as well, of, like, believing that we could be healthy again, and believing that, you know, um, I mean, besides like the faith piece of it, just believing that good things can happen to you, even though you're in the middle of a bad, hard circumstance. You know,
Yeah. Wow. I'll let you go after this. We'll close it
no,
out
you're
after
good.
one.
Well, she's in the car taking a phone call now, so I have a little bit
Okay.
of extra time.
What's Chase's relationship with his brother, sister, brother?
Brother, his name's Miles. He's
Miles.
14. It's really sweet.
Hmm.
Miles is a typical teenager also. But he's always been just so in tune to what Chase wants and needs, and just empathetic to everyone around him. I think just growing up, like, he's never known anything different. So he is so sweet to include Chase in everything he does when he can. When he has friends over, they'll all go like fish in the creek, and he's like, "Come on, Chase, come with us." And
Oh, nice.
they have their own unique, sweet bond. And I think it carries over into how Miles interacts with his peers and at school and different things. So it's it's been sweet to watch.
Yeah.
I
All right.
call
Well,
him our unsung hero because he's had to deal with a lot too. I know it's not easy on the siblings. He's had to endure, like, all the therapies and all the things. But on the flip side, I'm like, we're now dragging Chase to all your lacrosse games and your travel tournaments, and Chase has to
yeah.
sit through all the other things. So, like, it's evening out. Although
Uh
Chase
huh.
loves to watch Miles play.
Oh, I bet that would be fun. Will you leave everyone, the listeners, with some marriage hacks?
Marriage hacks.
Uh,
you know,
well, I mean, marriage is hard as it is, and then you bring in um, a journey of hardship, but also a lot of positives
yeah.
and healing and hope. Um, what's kept you guys going? Faith. Everything. The answer to everything is faith.
I mean, luckily, my husband is Chase also. We call him Big Chase, so that's how Chase got Little Chase, even though
Uh,
he's getting to be bigger than Big Chase. Um,
yeah.
but my husband Chase, he has always had a good foundation in his faith as well. And I think both of us, having grown up with that in our families, we've kind of grown in it together. I mean, obviously not like parallel, it's kind of been like this. And so even now, like, I'm the one openly communicating with Chase and witnessing that firsthand being the one that he's spelling it to has grown my faith. And like Chase is seeing it, but a little more secondhand. So I think just like a lot of grace, a lot of communication, of just staying open to like, working through and talking through the hard things, because it's hard, and there's a lot of stress, and I think just grace for each other,
Yeah.
and knowing that
Grace.
like the circumstances are probably what's playing into the reactions or the behaviors or whatever's coming out that's hard in the marriage. It's usually due to the circumstances. So we're pretty diligent about like taking, a day or a night of like just a day date, a lunch date, just to get away from the kids and have our
Hmm.
time. I mean, we've done therapy, we've done counseling, all the
Hmm.
things.
Which isn't a
But
bad thing.
yeah, being willing to work through the hard times and just naming it for what it is. And it's just another season,
Right.
hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah. Make those hard seasons short and the good seasons long.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, it's just the ebbs and flows of life.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
We're really good at dividing and conquering too. We both have, you know, our hats we wear, um,
Yeah.
and divide and conquer when we can.
So good. So much hope. I mean, to sum this up, I think it all comes back to faith, and also just the mindset of these spellers, our kids. The possibilities are endless,
Yeah.
and the more we believe in them and presume competence, and
I think
just
that's the main thing. If you can't even get access to boards, just start presuming competence. That shifts
hmm
everything.
yeah. Oh yeah. Where can you? Is there a spellers hub where people can find a practitioner?
Yes, so on the Spellers website, spellers.com, and Spellers Freedom Foundation, there's a tab where you can find a provider near you. And
Okay.
then I Ask for Spelling to Communicate also has a link on there to find a provider in your
Okay.
area. So either one of those are great places to start. And both of them also, if there's not anyone like really close to you, a lot of providers offer like intensives or like, come in for a day and we'll do a couple of like assessments and then Zoom options and online um, CP courses. So once you kind of get a feel for it, you can do all the training online to work with your child.
Yeah, and the goal is to train up the parent to be the
Right.
practitioner, correct?
Mhm.
So for all the
Yeah, because we want the parents to be able to communicate at home with their kids. Like the goal
right,
isn't to go once a week and give them a voice; it's to have a voice every day at home.
right, and I heard some criticism like, oh, it's just another autism therapy where people are trying to get rich. It's like,
Oh
no,
gosh, no!
the whole purpose is for them not to go see a practitioner. It's
Yeah.
for the
I'm
parent
not
to lead
retiring doing this by any stretch of the
right.
imagination. This is a passion job.
Oh, so good.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much for being on. I think there's so much hope, and the possibilities are endless.
I know. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. We love these conversations, and our goal is for all of you parents to be seen and heard in community with one another, inspired and equipped to take on this life. Just remember one thing: if you don't hear anything else, if you don't remember anything from this week's episode, hear this: you are enough. You have what it takes. Thanks again for being here.